This week we're entering the text of Jeremiah itself. We're beginning to work our way through the text. We looked at the introductory matters, what's prophecy. We looked at the historical aspects of Jeremiah, some of the critical issues. Today we actually get to the fun part, the text itself. And this unit deals with chapters 1 through 6 of the book of Jeremiah. Again, sort of an introduction to the book in terms of how it's laid out. When we approach a book, we make assumptions of the text. One of the assumptions that we make, and it's actually a subconscious assumption, is that the book is somewhat laid out chronologically. We expect chapter 1 to be before, in terms of time, chapter 2, and chapter 2 before chapter 3, and so on. In the book of Jeremiah, we don't have that, we cannot make that assumption. The book of Jeremiah is not laid out chronologically. We've got some late oracles that appear early in the book, and we've got some early oracles that appear later in the book. For example, chapter 24 occurs in 597. Chapter 25 occurs in 605, almost 10 years earlier, and yet it appears later. So we recognize that the book is not laid out chronologically. So we need to be sure that when we're approaching Jeremiah, we are not to think chronologically, because that is certainly not always the case in the book of Jeremiah. Chapter 1, for example, we have the call of Jeremiah. Okay? I think with that accurately we can say this is the call of Jeremiah. And then immediately following that are two visions that Jeremiah has. And we make an assumption, again it's subconscious, that these are the first two visions that Jeremiah has. Well, that may be the case, but we don't know that for sure. These are just the first two visions that are related in the book itself. So whether they are the first two visions, or I think these are two visions that sort of lay out the focus of the entire book. The first vision that's mentioned is the vision of the almond tree. And the point of that is God is going to accomplish what He said He would do. The second vision that we see, also in chapter 1, is this boiling pot that is pouring out from the north. And God says, from the north, destruction is going to come. So those are two themes that occur in the book of Jeremiah. And those two themes are accomplished in the book of Jeremiah. So whether it is first chronologically, it is certainly first thematically, because those two visions sort of lay out the theme of the entire book of Jeremiah. Also, as we approach the text, remember that our task as interpreters, first of all, is try to understand what God is telling them. Someone had said that we get to read Scripture over their shoulders. God is not primarily speaking to us in our day through the text. He's primarily speaking to that generation through Jeremiah about a particular thing. But because Scripture is inspired, God also speaks to us, but in a more indirect way. So not everything that is said to those people through Jeremiah really applies to our day. The principle applies, The way that I like to look at Scripture, both Old and New Testaments, is that the text is primarily speaking to them. But the principle that God is trying to tell them also applies to us. So again, we read Scripture over their shoulders, and God speaks to us just as He spoke to them, but in a slightly different way. Have a good time working through the text, read the material, and then interact on discussion board.